In this tutorial, we'll cover sharing and permissions in Google Sheets. Probably the most powerful part of having an online spreadsheet is the ability to collaborate and share data. Google allows you to share your Google Sheet or any other Google Workspace document to individuals, groups, domains, or everyone with either permissions like view or view with comments or the edit permission. So how do we share? Let's get started. There's two approaches to share. Let's start with our menu as usual. You can go to File and the first button that's available is the Share button. Alternatively, and probably the most popular one, is the big green Share button up in the top right hand corner of your Google Sheet. So let's click on this one. This is the one we'll be using for this tutorial. So let's have a look. Okay, when you click the sheet, it pops up with two boxes. In the first box, you can see it's share with people and groups. So you can share with multiple people at a time. So for example, we want to add Mrs. Yagi-san today. So I might say MRS, and she is there. And we'll click and add her in. And we might want to add someone else. So we might go coding.goat at yagi-san today.com. All right, this is a fictitious email account, so I'm not going to add that person in, but we can hit comma. And as long as the Yagi-san Today account is part of a Google Workspace domain, this will be a valid account. Another approach is to add a group. So you can create groups either using groups.google.com, which is your Google group community, or if you have a Google Workspace paid account, you can go into the admin and create a group there, or get your admin to create a group for you. So here's my group I created earlier with groups.google.com. And I'll say Yagi work group at googlegroups.com. Okay, you know it's effective because it'll pop up with an option here. Okay, cool. So if you hover over the group, you can see a quick sample of how many members there are in the group and who is in the group, and you can click for more information if you want it. Because there's only two people in this group, Mrs. Yagi and myself, there's no real point to add it. We'll remove it in a moment, but just to let you know, you can add multiple people at the same time, or groups and people at the same time. So for example, I can also add Mrs. Yagi here, even though she's in the same group, and she'll have the same permissions as this list of people that we'll add shortly. So if I say Mrs. Yagi here, put her in, I can click editor and hit send. Now, let's quickly remove this work group because we don't need it. And so once you've added in the names, you can change the permissions. So it immediately comes up with editor in this case, but we can change from editor to commenter and viewer. So while we're here, let's take a look at this. Viewer only gives the user that you are adding permission to view the document. They can't make any edits or changes or comments. The next level is a commenter. In our previous tutorial, we went over comments, but the commenter permission gives them view access, but also the ability to make comments by inserting a comment. And then finally, the editor permission, and that gives them full access so long as the ranges are not protected. And we'll talk about protecting ranges a little bit later in this series. Okay, so for now, we want Mrs. Yagi-san Today to have editor permissions, so we'll keep that clicked, and then we'll go off on to the next bit. So you can see pre-check that there's notified people. Underneath there's a message. If you uncheck that, the notified people will disappear and you don't have to write a message. Now, more often than not, you probably want to write a message in here because once you write a message, it will email the user and the user will receive the message and know that they've been shared on a document. So let's do that. I'll say, hi, can you give me a hand editing this document? Thanks, Yagi. Okay, and then once you're done, you send this off. So away we go, click send. Okay, and you can see up the top here, person added. Now, if you wanted to see how many people have been added or shared to this document, we can go back to share again. And now you can see that Mrs. Yagi-san Today has been added to this document and she has the permission of editor. If you're all happy, you can click off here and it'll vanish, or you can click done. So we'll go back in and click done. All right, so let's move over to Mrs. Yagi-san Adaday's account, and hopefully she would have received an email by now letting her know that she now has edit permission for this Google Sheet. And there it is there. And all she needs to do now, you can see we're in her account. All she needs to do now is click on the link and she can read the message here and she'll enter in. Now, before we go into the Google Sheet, a quick heads up. Sometimes your users, particularly if they're not familiar with Google Sheets or they've been overly conditioned to being shared with documents, will miss these comments here. So this is a good situation for when you might not want to send a notification, but you send a general email and embed this document or share this document inside the email. That aside, let's move into the document as Mrs. Yagi-san Atade. As you can see up in the top right hand corner, this is her account, and you can also see over here who is currently in the account, and you can actually chat with them at the same time. Right now, I'm in the account, and as Mrs. Yagi-san Atade right now, I can go in and edit. So I might say banana grips, because that's a thing, and we'll give that to monkey. We'll add a checkbox, just drag that down, and hasn't been checked yet, and we don't know who it's been shared by at this point in time. Okay, now if we go back into my account from Mrs. Yagi-san Adade's, and we control tab and back into here. Now you can see this is my account, and you can see Mrs. Yagi-san Adade is in there, and automatically you can see that the data has been updated for us. Also note here that you can see what cell Mrs. Yagi-san Adade is on, and you can hover over that to see what she's doing. If she is currently editing in the cell, you won't see what she's editing until she hits return or enter or tab to get to another cell or clicks on another cell. Okay, so let's go back into the share settings to learn a few more things. Once we're in here, we are still working with share with people in groups. Up the top right hand corner, you probably have noticed the cog, which is your standard settings button. We'll click on that and open it up. Out of the box, it checks these two values. First, editors can change permissions and share. And the second one, viewers and commenters can see the options to download and print and copy. So if you've got a larger document that's shared with a wider community, and your editors might just be editing simple basic parts of it, like they're doing their data entry for the particular task within the organization, and you don't want them to change permissions and share the document with other people outside the community, you can uncheck this. Okay. And now those people with edit permissions can't change the permissions or share the document. Next, viewers and commenters can see the options to download and print and copy. If this is a proprietary spreadsheet or something from your organization that you don't want to be downloaded, you can uncheck this button as well. So we'll leave this here at the moment, and we'll make sure that Mrs. Yagi-san Adade can't change permissions and share, and then we'll go check out her account. So go back to this one and we'll hit done. All right, let's flip over to Mrs. Yagi-san Adade's page, and we'll hit refresh, and we can go into here as her, and you can see at the top that you're an editor and can't share or change permissions. Okay, and then that's done. So we've achieved that. Fantastic. Let's go back to Yagi-san Adade account, my account. Oh, here we go. So to change the permission level or remove somebody from an account, you can go into the share button again, and you can click on the user, and they've got a drop down. So you've got viewer again, you can change them to a viewer, a commenter, an editor. Once you select one of these, you click done and it'll update their status. You can also make them an owner or remove. Before we move on to these other steps, let's have a look at make owner and remove. To make an owner, they have to be in the same domain account. So what do I mean by this? Right now, I am in the @gmail.com domain, and so is Mrs. Yagi-san Adade. So I can make her an owner. If you have a Google Workspace account, for example, at yagisanatade.com might be a Google Workspace account, and Mrs. Yagi at Yagi-san and Yagi at Yagi-san are in the same domain, you can make that other person a user. But if Mrs. Yagi just has a Gmail account and you have your domain at Yagi-san account, you can't make that other person a user because they are two different domains. All right. And here we can also remove the user. You simply click remove and that person is immediately removed. Let's jump back in and re-add Mrs. Yagi, and this time we'll give her view permissions. So Mrs. Yagi, here she is, and we'll send her another message. Hey, so we don't get in trouble, we'll have a little fib. I accidentally removed your permissions. You should only have view permissions. Okay, so this time we're going to change the permissions to view and click send. Let's flip back over to Mrs. Yagi-san Adaday's account and have a little bit of a refresh. So here you can say access has expired. That was from before when we removed her from the account. If we only had removed her, but it's gone through 2 cycles, it would have just closed down the account. But now, because we put her back on and put her onto view, there she is. You can see a little bit of a change here. Up the top right hand corner, you can see all the menu bar has been removed and you can see view only mode. Now, if she thinks that she should be an editor, she can click on this and request edit access. And she can say, hey, I thought I was an editor. Lots of exclamation marks because she is outraged. And she can click send. And this will pop up on your email. And for every user that wants to be an editor, you'll receive this. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what if I've shared this with thousands of people and only in view only and they want to be an editor? Well, unfortunately, you're going to get these messages constantly. However, I do have a tutorial on how to receive them in Gmail and automatically hide them or resend an automated email informing them that they won't get edit access and you don't have to do any work or view the constant barrage of messages of this type. Okay, so let's move back to Yagi's account. You can see up here, I'm back in my account. All right, so one final thing, we can share the document in a slightly different way. As we said at the beginning, there's 2 boxes when you hit share, and down the bottom, this one says get link. If I copied your link here and pasted it in a incognito mode, so let's give that a go. I'll go Control Shift N for incognito mode and pasted it in. You can see that it requires a sign in. And if I signed in to a different account, it would come up with a warning letting me know that I don't have access to it because it is restricted to only those people, because as we saw, going back to here to share, it is restricted to only people that have been added. And right now it's just me and Mrs. Yagi-san Adaday. Okay, so if I opened up a new tab in this sheet and I hit paste, it'll come up, obviously because I'm the owner. Okay, all right, so we can change this link permissions to change anyone with the link. And you can see here in green, anyone with the link. So I've opened this drop down and it shows that we've got restricted and anyone with link. Now, if you've got the Google Workspace paid account, it'll also have a pop-up that says anyone within organization or a phrase like that that will help you just restrict it to those people within your organization or your domain account. Okay, we'll keep this here. Now we can also see that we've got copy link. We don't have any edit issues here, but we can change the permission. So be very careful with this. If you're doing with anyone with link can view, they can also comment or they can edit. Now, of course, anyone on the internet can edit, can be a crazy messed up process. So be careful about doing that unless you have all your protections on your sheet and you're willing to open it up to anyone to make a comment. Okay, so we've got anyone with link can view. If we copy this, we hit Control Shift New into incognito mode, and this will open up, even though I'm not signed into an account, and it'll show the 2 people that are on the account, but not their details. All right, we'll keep that open for anyone with the link can view, and I'll share it down the bottom of this tutorial. Just one final thing, now that we shared it with everyone, we've got an incognito Google Chrome page open. We can see that this person is available here and they come up with a random name, so Ifrit in this case. All right, so that's all there is to sharing on Google Sheets. If you liked the tutorial, click the thumbs up and I'll catch you in the next tutorial.